Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to my December stats and favorites. I debated whether I was going to put my end of the year stats in with my December stats, and I decided to make them two separate videos because I really want to kind of dissect the stats in my end of the year more than I do for a monthly wrap up. And also in this one, since I'll be talking about some of my favorite reads of December, I didn't want it to get too long because I like my stats wrap ups to kind of be a little more concise. That doesn't always happen when you're dealing with Jenn, the over talker. But that's where we're at, okay? That's where we're at. So let's go ahead and dive in. Excuse me. December is the last couple years has been really wonderful for me because I choose to reread my favorite books of the year. And the reading vlogs of me doing that, as well as the actual video, is out as of this. So if you haven't watched it yet, go ahead and click over here. You know, you can wait till we're done with this if you want, so you know how the year went. But if you want to know what my favorite books of 2021 were, you can watch that video. In this video, we won't be talking about those ones because obviously they're my favorites. We're going to talk about the other books that I read and which of those 5 were my favorites. But first, let's talk about the stats for the month. So in December, I read 52 books, which was 18,287 pages with an average of 609 pages per day. So just a little bit of rambling about this. Number one, this is a little bit of a lower month, but it's not a surprise for 2 reasons. Number one, because I was doing rereads, there were quite a few of those rereads that don't have audiobooks. So I was reading more physical books, and you'll see this. I was reading more physical books than I usually do, and that does tend to slow me down a little bit just because I can't, you know, I am a speed reader. I read very quickly. That is a skill that has been honed over time. But I still can't read as fast as like a 2 times speed, which I can listen to and soak up what's being read to me at that speed. I had someone comment on a video about, particularly it was for Go Tell the Bees That I'm Gone, and they were like, you didn't, or no, they commented on my Goodreads review because I don't do in detailed reviews on my Goodreads unless it's for an author. I do my detailed reviews here because YouTube is my main, you know, that's the main way that I convey how I feel about books. And I had someone say, there's no way you read this book in 3 days, and you must not have because your review isn't very detailed. And I was like, you must be new here because I read an average of 600 pages a day. That's my lowest that I can read. I definitely could read a 900-page book in 3 days. Like, if anything, it was slowed down because I was at home with my family and with me. Anyway, I know this is a side rant. And again, it's not so much that I want to make it like I'm better than other people by saying I can read that much. It's the fact when people try to put people down because they can read fast. Like, they're not soaking up what's being said, or that they're just doing it to prove something. It's like, no, I've always felt this excited about reading, even when I read 120 books a year, which was only 3 years ago. It was in 2018 that I read 120 books, and I was loving it just as much then as now. It's just that I've gotten faster at reading. I rely more on audiobooks. I never used to use audiobooks. I would only use them in long car trips. So it's just something that, like, it doesn't make you less that you can't read as fast as me. You know, it doesn't make someone less of a reader because we don't have the same pace. You know, I devote 12 to 16 hours a day to reading. Think of any hobby, think of any talent, think of any sport you do. If you were putting that much of yourself into it every day, 365 days a year, if you didn't improve, if you didn't get faster, you'd be concerned with yourself. So I'm not here to preach to you. I'm just sharing that that's like, you hurt people when you say like there's no way you could have done that, because it's like you're trying to find a way that I cheated, or a way that I'm skipping stones so that you can say, I'm more like you than you'd say because you can't really read that much. Like, no, I can, and I do. And if you don't believe me, like, don't watch my stuff then. If you think I'm making all these videos up, then why are you watching it, right? Okay, sorry for the side rant, but it just kind of hurt my feelings a little bit that someone's like, how can you do that? And I definitely understand why people don't believe it, but I promise I've done it. And I've talked about every one of those books in detail on my channel, which you can see in my weekly wrap-ups, where I've talked about all 700 plus books I've read this year right there. Okay, moving on. The format in which I read these books, as I've said, quite a few print books. I read 27 print books, 24 audiobooks, 17 ebooks, and 7 ARCs. And as I say every time, there's an overlap with that, because usually when I'm reading an audiobook, I'm usually complementing it with the ebook or the physical book. Like an example being Then Came You, which, spoiler alert, is in my favorites of this month. Like, I listened to the audiobook when I was at work, but then when I was home on my couch, I like to read along and either take notes or just really soak in what's happening. So that's why there's some overlap with those. I don't count both the print book and the audiobook as a book, though. I only count it as one when I'm adding it up, if that makes sense. The subgenres of romance I read were 15 historical, 15 dark, 11 contemporary, 3 paranormal, 4 fantasy, and 4 sci-fi. Oh, it was so much fun. Yeah, I had a lot of Mafia books to reread because there was a lot of Mafia that were my favorites this year. So, all right, and now for the ratings. And this is going to be so much fun. I'm so excited. I had no DNFs this month, which is no surprise. But I also did have a 2-star, which is no surprise at all when you know what it was. So here's my ratings. I had 26 star books, 9 5-star books, 3 4.5 star books, 15 4-star books, 3 3-stars, 1 2.5 star, and 1 2-star. So this is obviously no surprise because I was rereading my 6-star books this month. So it's not a surprise that I had that many. I had actually started them in November, so that's why it's not all 30 of them. And I'm glad I started them earlier. I would have been in trouble. So let's go ahead and dive into what my favorite reads of December was. And as I said at the top of this video, I picked these from the books that weren't my rereads for my favorites. And you'll see what I mean. Because I did reread a book that wasn't in my favorites list that I'm including in this because I enjoyed myself so much rereading this book. But let's go through and we'll go kind of like in the order that I read them for the month. So the first book I want to point out is The Wrong Heart by Jennifer Hartmann. This was my first book of December. This was a book that had been recommended in my book rec form by my viewers. And I knew I wanted to read more Jennifer Hartmann after I read Still Beating just a month or two ago, which was intense. I had a lot of feelings about that book. And I had a lot of feelings about this book as well. So this book starts out with our heroine losing her husband to a car, like he gets hit by a car and dies. And he's an organ donor and his heart gets donated. And our heroine wants to find out who has her husband's heart so that she can, know them or something. But that's against the rules. You can't, it's private medical information. But she begs the surgeon, begs the surgeon to just give me their phone number, give me their email or something so I can contact them. And the surgeon gives her an email address. And then we skip ahead a little way. She writes a email to this person and she doesn't hear back. And so we skip ahead, I think 13 months or so, and we meet our hero, and both our hero and our heroine are in a suicide attempt, support group. So they've both attempted to kill themselves. So trigger warning for that. Obviously trigger warnings for loss of a loved one as well. And depression. So all of those fun things are in this book. But this is a case too of kind of like a pen pal situation, because after 13 months, this recipient of the heart that she got an email that she emailed finally emails her back, and they start conversing through these. And he's a very sarcastic, kind of mean person, but it's kind of good for both of them to have someone to talk to. Meanwhile, we know as the reader that this person doing the emails is our hero, who is also in this support group, and they hate each other through, well, mostly he hates all women. And this book, the hero literally says that he hates all women, okay? And there are reasons for that. It's not the kind of like incel kind of hate all women. This is a trauma-based I hate all women type of thing, okay? So also trigger warning for that. So there's just a whole bunch in this story, right? Jennifer Hartmann throws in all these obstacles, all this pain, all these triggers, all these things are put in there. And then we watch these two slowly get to know each other, both through their emails and through their interactions. And our heroine, she's just trying to find peace. She's just trying to put her life back together after losing the love of her life and not really wanting to go on anymore, you know? So yeah, this was a fascinating story. I really don't want to spoil anything. That's the thing that I'm coming to learn from this author, is she really has some crazy things to show you and like twists for you. So I feel like the best thing to know is to know what the triggers are going in, which I hope I've, kind of said those things, and then just trust it. Trust that there's an HEA at the end, and trust that. Also, the only other warning I want to give is this hero, boy, was I ready to punch him. And I knew there had to be something more to it, that like his I hate all women, he didn't want to be touched. Like, I knew he had to have a trauma that was making him be that way. And so I gave him a lot of leeway, because I was like, I know I'm going to find out what the full situation is and I will understand. But boy, does he push you. The author pushes you to the point where you're like, I don't know if I can forgive him no matter what happened to him. And then you find out what happened to him and you're like, yep, I forgive him. Yep, I do. So take that into consideration, that it will go past the point where you think you can forgive this hero in this book, and then you will. And then you will want these two to find happiness so much. So, yeah. Yep, The Wrong Heart was a 5-star book for me. All right, I said this would come up. I read Then Came You by Lisa Kleypas. I actually have a reading vlog. I'll see if I remember to put that up above, where I read this for a reading vlog, reading books from the year I was born. This was a collaboration with Peace Love Books, Books by Samantha, Crystal's Bookish Life, and Lacey and Lisa, Remarkably Lisa, and Lacey's Book Lover. I forget everyone's names, but they're in that video that I'll link up here. And we all read books from the year we were born, which was some in the 80s and then some from different years in the 90s. And luckily I had a Kleypas book fall into that I hadn't read yet. And I honestly had been saving to do something like this anyway, where I read my favorite author's books, but from the year I was born. And I love this book, obviously. I gave it 5 stars. This book is part of the Gamblers of Craven. I always want to call it the Gramblers. The Gamblers of Craven. This book comes before Dreaming of You, and it is about Lily Lawson and Alex Rayford, and they start with an enemies to lovers. He wants to marry her sister because her sister is a very biddable, sweet, quiet girl, and Lily is seen as kind of a ruined woman. She's thought to be the mistress of Derek Craven. She goes to his club. She's the only woman who has a membership to Cravens, and she's allowed to gamble there, and they are friends. And it's a very interesting situation. I don't want to spoil anything, but Lily has a big secret she's keeping, and when her sister's true love, because her sister has someone else that she's in love with, she chooses to intervene to stop this marriage from happening between Alex and her sister. And Alex is like, quit getting in my way. So they have this lots of back and forth. This has some dubious consent in it on both of their sides in different situations. And I go into great detail about this in my vlog. It's actually a little bit spoilery, so know that. But I really wanted to discuss what was happening because there were situations where Lily was not getting consent from Alex to do things, and there was a situation where there was dubious consent because Lily promised something that she wasn't going to deliver, but Alex holds her to that. So it's a dubious consent situation because, and I'm saying this like, you still are always allowed to give your consent, and at any point, like, we know this. I fully know that. But also, as a lover of dark romance, I appreciate situations like this where there's something on the line and Lily knows what she will owe if she does this thing. She goes past every opportunity to get out of the situation. She's like, nope, I'm seeing this through. And then when she has to pay up, she wants to say she doesn't want to do it. And I like that Alex holds her to that because she knew what the cost would be. It's not like it was a surprise or he was taking advantage. Like, she agrees to the situation and then wants to cry off of it. And he's like, no. And so that's dubious consent because she's not enthusiastically consenting, but it's a very interesting situation between these two, and I love them. Okay. Keep it going here. Then I read an arc of this book, and it is now out, so I got a beautiful copy of it. I read, oh my god, it's so pretty. Sorry. I read Scarred Regrets by Adelaide Forrest, which is actually the 4th book in, oopsie, they're so pretty. I can't wait to add it to my bookshelf. The Belandi Crime Syndicate. I always say this wrong. Adelaide Forrest. She writes some very intense men. I've read quite a few of her books at this point. There's only a couple I haven't read. And this one is about Scar, who's actually a bodyguard for Mateo and Mateo's wife, which is the first book in the series. And we've seen him be with this family through thick and thin. He's an adopted member of this family, basically. And yeah, he does bodyguard duties for the heroine in that book. And he has a very traumatic past. He was the only protector of his sister when they were young, and he sold his body to protect his sister. And it didn't matter because his sister died anyway. And then he was welcomed in to the Belandi family, and he has been working for them ever since. And when he comes across our heroine, whose name is Arena, there we go, she is this seemingly spoiled socialite, but she's a do-gooder. She has this orphanage where she takes care of kids who are abandoned on the streets. And she's like, I think she's the daughter of like the mayor or something. But she has kind of a messy past, but she doesn't seem to be touched by it. And she meets Scar at a club one night, and she gets closer to him than any woman in a long time. But he has, like we said, he has a lot of trauma. He doesn't like to be touched. He doesn't want to be in an intimate relationship with a woman. And Arena just like won't let it go. And Ivory, the woman that he is a bodyguard for, she knows Arena, and so she maybe decides to go out with lunch or with Arena quite a few times, knowing that Scar will have to come with, and kind of forcing them together. And then there's a very traumatic thing that happens to our heroine, and I mean, I'm going to spoil it because I'm going to say the triggers. I don't believe triggers are spoilers, even though sometimes they are. She is pretty brutally raped and mutilated and abused. So all these things happened to her. And that beautiful, bright light that she was is very, very dimmed, if not extinguished. And to the point where there's also trigger warnings for a suicide attempt, for deep depression, all these things that Adelaide Forrest is not afraid to just rip into. And now there's this beautiful quote that I won't get right because I didn't write it down, but that describes them so well, is that Irina is who brought Scar back from the dead. And he's the reason that Irina has to live. So it's like this cross that, like, she brought him back to life, but he's the reason that she needs to live. Because they have these two different things. Like, he was dead inside, and she was his bright light. And now she doesn't want to be here anymore. And he is her reason for staying. And this book, honestly, is so different from a lot of books that I've read of Adelaide Forrest. She usually writes very forceful men who do a lot of manipulation. They do forced pregnancy situations. They really want to control their women. They're obsessive. They're almost psychopaths, like that kind of thing. And I love that stuff, don't get me wrong. But this book was so different from those because our hero is trying to push the heroine away, and she's the one kind of pursuing him because she thinks they could be good together. And he does white fang her a few times, like in the beginning of this book. If you don't know, that's the term of pushing someone away after you're very intimate together for their own good. Until we reach that point in the story where Irina needs him, and we see a change in him where he wants to be that for her. So this book was gut-wrenching, but it was so beautiful. And yeah, the 6th book in this series was just announced too. And we see that couple in this one. I'm very excited. It's going to be Settled Scores. So, and then she's also going to be doing kind of a duet that spins off from another couple in here. So, but this book, I want to say a positive too. This book really focuses too on like adoption and taking in, you know, other children and stuff. And I really love that. I love when there is adoption in books because these kids that she's helping, they are kids who were like Scar would have been when he was young. And he also kind of resents her at times before they're close because he's like, where was that for me when I needed it, you know? And it's that thing of like, well, yeah, it didn't exist when you needed it, but that doesn't mean we can't like give it now, you know? It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Okay. So then I want to talk about another book that I was supposed to have in my hands, and I got to tell a sad little story. So we're about to talk about Bound by Tiffany Roberts because this book came out like the day before Christmas, and your girl like took every second away from my family. Like, I had it on my phone and on my Kindle, and I was able to get through like half of it at work on the 23rd. That was my last day of work before break. But then I had to drive for 3 hours, and I was like, no. But while we were at Christmas, I was sneaking little peeks of it. But what happened is I ordered the whole trilogy because I don't own any of Tiffany Roberts' books yet, and they're going to be on my channel in a week. I don't know when I'm putting this video up, but they're going to be on my channel on January 8th, and I'm very excited. And so, you know, when I interview an author, I like to display some of their books behind me and be like, hi, yay, I love your stuff. And I didn't own any of their books yet. And after I read Bound, or like I had started reading it, I was like, I want all of these. And so I ordered the whole trilogy as a Christmas present to myself. And I chose delayed shipping because I was going to be gone for 5 days. So I was like, I don't need them right now. And then the day that they were supposed to ship, Amazon canceled my order, which I know has been happening to people. So it's not like I'm not the only one this has happened to, but I was devastated because I wanted to have it to film this video, but like I'm not going to have it now until maybe the day before we interview with them, but it's okay. It's okay. It'll be okay. But anyway, so I read Bound, which is the 3rd book in the trilogy, so I don't want to spoil too much, but this was my favorite one. And I know not everyone is feeling that way, but I'll tell you why it's my favorite and why this trilogy, why I'm happy that it's as long as it is. Tiffany Roberts, they don't, from what I've seen, they don't usually write so many books about the same character. They usually will like switch, you know, one by one through like a group of aliens or a group of, they've done Kraken, you know, they have the Infinite City, they have a fantasy one, like all these different series that they have. But this, the Spider's Mate trilogy is about one couple. It's about Ivy and Catan, and it's this human girl who, she finds herself on this planet with these Vricks, which is what the spider aliens are, and she's rescued by Catan. And it's just watching their romance grow through the first two books, which, let's be real, I love some kinky aliens. You know this. I do. But I believe that this series needed the space that it had for us to fully love these Vricks, for us to fully be on board with, you know, the sex happening, with possible offspring happening, with all of those things. I think we needed to be able to be on board with it, you know? And through this series, you know, we've met the other humans that are there. We meet other Vricks, both female and the males, because in this species, like with, you know, spiders, the females are usually bigger and deadlier. And so we have a hero who is the strongest and most badass of his kind, and he is still insignificant compared to the queen. I will never be able to pronounce her name, who wants him as her mate because he's the best of the best, and that's what she wants her future offspring to be like. And she's so dominating. And at the beginning of this book, the queen has him in her claspers, and she's going to force him, because there's this thing where, like, when a female Vrix has picked her man, she can emit her pheromones, and it forces arousal from the male. So Catan is going to be raped. That's what's going to happen to our hero, you know? And it's so devastating, because also his female, Ivy, she has no hope of defeating someone like this queen, you know? And so the queen can't understand why he would prefer this soft, squishy little human to her, who's the most powerful, beautiful, strong female Vrix there's ever been, you know? And it's terrifying. But anyway, my point being, this third book, it was really long. It was like 400 and some pages. But I feel like it needed to be that long, because we really showed our humans and Vrix working together. We get to meet this other breed of alien that is very much like Vrix, but they're also different. And previously they'd been at war with the queen, who had chased them out, and now they are kind of like our sanctuary for us to go to. And I loved meeting them. They show us this option of, like, this is what it could be like. We don't always have to be at war. We don't always have to be scrapping for what we need. And I loved watching how Catan and Ivy, like, matured and grew deeper in love, and their HEA was so satisfying and beautiful. And so there's a note at the end of the book that they have one more Infinite City book that they're writing, and then they're going to continue this series. I don't know what they will call that, because it's not going to be Catan and Ivy. It's going to be about the other humans and their Vrix, because we definitely are kind of starting to see the pairings of, like, the other mate couples. And, you know, Tiffany and Robert wouldn't set that up if they weren't going to pay it off for us. So hopefully in 2022 we will get to see those books as well. I am very excited about it. So yeah. But I love this so much. It was 5 stars, and I love the whole trilogy. I can't wait. I can't wait to have my physical books. And honestly, I wish these had audiobooks. When they're on my channel, I'm definitely going to ask, like, if audiobooks are coming, which would be very interesting too, because some of these words, man, I feel bad for the narrators having to pronounce them. But anyway, okay. And then the last one, and this is the one, this was a reread, but it wasn't one of my like favorites rereads. But I reread MacGrieve by Kresley because Monroe comes out January 25th. And I wanted to reread MacGrieve because MacGrieve is Monroe's twin brother. And at the end of MacGrieve, we get a snippet in the epilogue about what happens to Monroe. Because when we're reading this one, Monroe disappears at the end. And in this epilogue, we find out where he is. So I don't think I'm going to reread any like of the other ones. This is the one I really needed to reread. I've actually reread Wicked Abyss and Sweet Ruin not that long ago. But let's talk about MacGrieve real quick, and then I'll tell you a fun little thing that I'm really excited about. So this one is about Will MacGrieve. He is a 900-year-old Lycae, and he recently was also on Torture Island, where him and some other immortals were tortured by the Order. And he is also called like the Madman. What else do they call him? They call him something else. Like Headcase. They call him Headcase. And he just hasn't been the same, and he's very messed up. And our heroine, her name is Chloe, and she's actually the daughter of Webb, who is the commander of the specific torture island that our immortals were being tortured at. And she, it turns out, is actually half an immortal creature as well. But she doesn't know. She starts going through these changes. And when her dad finds out, he gives her the book of lore and then hightails it out of there. Because there's other stuff going on that she doesn't know. Basically that all the immortals who are on this island are coming after Webb, and they want to use Chloe to get to him. So she gets kidnapped, and she's getting put up for auction to be auctioned off to any immortal who's willing to pay for it, to use her as bait, to rape her, to torture her, to eat her, whatever they want to do. And Will and Monroe, they go to this auction because they want to try to get information where Webb is, just like everybody else. And when he smells her, he realizes she's his mate. So first off, he's just very like disturbed that the daughter of Webb would be his mate. But he rescues her from this, brings her to his home. And when we discover what type of immortal she is, that may be more disturbing to him than her being the daughter of Webb. So I love this. This was 5 stars. And now I'll get to say that I was officially, this just happened yesterday. I was invited onto Kresley Cole's ARC team. We had to fill out a form, and there was like 80 of us chosen to be on her ARC team. And you could be on her like YA books or her adult books. So I get to be on the ARC team for Monroe, which I could just cry in a little puddle. I'm so excited. Because I know a lot of people applied to be on that, and I'm so excited. So I don't know when I'm getting it and all that, but I know it'll be between now and January 24th because that's when it comes out. So yeah, I'm so excited. So yay! But anyway, there you go. Those are my December 21 stats. I think in 2022, I'll continue to go with this format. One of the things I wanted to ask is if you want me to talk about my least favorite reads of the month as well. That's something that I've seen my friends do. They talk about their favorites or their least favorites and their favorites. I generally don't talk about my least favorite of things, but sometimes there's books that I could do a little bit of a rant about. It would only be like 1 or 2. Like I wouldn't do my 5 least favorite in my 5. I'd do like maybe a disappointment or something. So let me know if you're interested in that. Cause like this month, I had a couple books I could have ranted about, but it would just make the video longer, which I know some people wouldn't mind, but whatever. So let me know. Thank you so much for watching. It means so much to me that you keep showing up. You know, if you keep showing up, I'm going to keep making the videos. So I hope you're having a wonderful 2022 so far. I'm pretty sure this is going up in the new year. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon.